Alright, on the play for round 5, with a pretty good hand. Opponent was last seen on Doomsday. I have a Revoker to help me with, but it's not like that's the greatest card in the world in that matchup. Jam on Lotus Petal. Revoker gets dazed some portion of the time, but I think that's fine because my port's not doing anything this turn. Doomsday's a really hard matchup for DNT. Our matchup doesn't line up well with their threats. Being on the play with a Vial and Port does a lot of work in making their mana awkward, though, so I do have that going for me. I think I hide the Wasteland. Don't let them know that that's something that's coming. So now I get to keep them off of either Ponder or Dark Ritual. Which way does Doomsday round? That's relevant here. Rounded up. They would go to 9. I would hit them for 6 back if I get Sword of Fire and Ice. I think I'm more scared of Dark Ritual. I'm also not 100% sure if I double port my opponent next turn or just crash in with Sword of Fire and Ice. I think I crash in because my opponent can already, like, off this fetch land, Dark Ritual do their thing. So I think just trying to close the door on the game as quickly as possible becomes good. Already played my land. I've already played my land. I have 4, 5, 6, 7 damage on board. Cycle Unearth, huh? Was Unearth in your Doomsday deck before? Yes, there wasn't one of Unearth in there before. Interesting. I wasteland you, double port you, keep you entirely off of main phase black. Really good. Can also do that while becoming the Monarch for giggles. Punishing draw, but that's okay. Would make that play every time. So I think what they just did was a very bad play. So they played out this LED that showed me more cards, and then cycled Edivaughtum, which confirmed the deck they were on. So if I didn't already have access to their deck list because of like how Magic Online works, I think that's a very low EV line. Like especially like don't necessarily show me the LED, especially if I didn't revoke it in game one. So does opponent have any good graveyard synergies? One Faithless Looting, one Unearth. No, like Echo of Eons type stuff. Opponent has Massacre, Crater Maker, Decay, maybe Chain of Vapor for me. So this is kind of the issue. I don't really have sideboard cards that are good for them. They have, how many Baleful Strix? They have 2 Baleful Strix, which makes boarding things specifically for Strix not great. I'll probably play Walking Ballista. Opponent's version doesn't have Planeswalkers as well. They have like Daze, Predict, Force of Will in a lot of the other disruptive slots, so they're looking to go very fast. Yeah, I'm really not suited for this matchup. I think I'm going to board in Surgicals. To just, like, try to mess up their cantrips and buy me some time. Like, that doesn't feel good, but, like, Source of Plowshares is not great. It just hits Baleful Strix. I could also try to Cataclysm for their slower starts. Like that, or, like, Gut Shot. Yeah, like, I just don't have cards for this matchup. Basically at all. I think 25 lands is also probably too many lands, but kinda is what it is. Hand's great. In a world where I get to play around Massacre even. Hey, if that gets dazed, that maybe means Thalia resolves, so that's fine with me. And this Thalia resolving is quite important. Like Thalia and Prelate are my two disruptive elements that can get me a win. Let Ponder do. Ponder does not shuffle. Ooh, yeah, I get to continue to play around Massacre, at least for a little while. That's okay. I'm jamming the Thalia every time there. This is not a matchup where I really have the luxury of time. And if they are dazing, it means they're not resolving a larger spell in the short term. Are we like really? Okay, I was gonna say, like, are we third dazing? Relic for 3 to stop Doomsday is very good. I'll say just cast it this turn. In case Athalia mucks them up slightly more. I'll go ahead and take the Sanctum Prelate. I get to play Sanctum Prelate around Daze next turn, and then Wasteland them. Okay, I get to play Sanctum Prelate around Abrupt Decay. And Daze. Ooh, but not around Force of Will. It's frustrating to have played around so many things and still get Doomsdayed. But at least I'll get to see what their pile is roughly like to see if I can mess it up. They have 2 cards left in hand and have already made their land drop, so they probably can't kill this turn. Alright, I don't know how on earth to pronounce that string of letters, but thank you for throwing your Twitch Prime this way this month. Very much appreciated. Sergi, have you read my article from March? It's largely that and more. So that's a good starting point. Pretty much everything that's there is still true. The problems are slightly different, but largely the same. How are they getting blue-blue to win? How are they getting blue-blue to win if I port them? Opponent had 2 Baleful Strix in their deck list, and I only see one of them here. So that makes me think that Baleful Strix is one of their draws, meaning that I should port them off of Bayou rather than playing Stoneforge Mystic. So if I play Stoneforge Mystic, they're dead next turn, because I have my 5th land drop. Sword represents 4. He'll be at 6 after I attack with Recruiter of the Guard. But I'm not sure that they can just win if I double port them for the rest of the game. I don't know if they planned for double port. My guess is no. Yet. No, the answer is no. If you ask again in a month, the answer will still be no. If you ask again after the next set, the answer will still be no. If you ask again the set after that, the answer is still probably no, but like maybe there's time. Like the deck has huge issues right now that are not going to be resolved without major printings for the deck or major bannings of the format. And Wizards does not seem to want to pull the trigger on bans currently. So I would not expect much to change. And yes, I will be doing this again right here. Thank you. Okay. They just milled a Thassa's Oracle. Oh, I see. They unearth it. That sucks. All right. Maybe since so many of my cards don't do much, I should also board in Rip and Fairy when I'm on the play. Just like limit their Doomsday piles further. Like I don't see myself fetching Jitte in this matchup. Palace Jailer, excuse me, is too slow to be good. Oh, DNT was like fine to good in that time period. This is one of the like lowest extended period sets of D&T being bad I've ever played in. And that's counting like Deathrite top, all that stuff. Like unclear if Renan's 6 meta was more hostile to D&T than this, but both are like incredibly bad. Yeah, around the time of that Team Pro Tour, I had an extremely high D&T win rate. God, this is terrible. How many of these do I get to keep? 5. Okay, so this is where I hope they go for like some unearth-based line for some reason, so that I can get them. It seems likely that they'll go for an unearth-based line because I have port for their underground sea. I'm gonna run to the restroom while my opponent figures out this pile. Okay, opponent is still figuring out the pile. This is not unexpected. Back to Slay with Fury's question from a minute ago. Do you have a ban wish list of sorts to promote legacy health? Um, the power creep of 2019, 2020 is very problematic, so I can totally see just like going ham on a lot of the cards there. The opponent does not have Unearth there. One of their cards is Edge of Autumn. One of their cards is Baleful Strix. Presumably have some mana, though it's not Lion's Eye Diamond. They might have boarded Lotus Petal out, or they have it. I think I go to my turn and Surgical their Doomsday and fuck with them. Holy hell. How many Underground Seas are in your deck? Is it 3? 3 Underground Seas, so I can successfully Surgical an Underground Sea here. The opponent now does not... Oh no, they do still have access to blue-blue. But I mess up the order. Okay, I need to snip this. So, the only way that my opponent can win the game is by casting Thassa's Oracle. That's it, given their deck size. Faithless Looting in their hand digs them towards cards that win in the game. I probably can't let them cast that. The thing is that they need 3 of the 5... Okay, so what if they cast Looting? Is there any world in which I don't die? Street Wraith and Edge of Autumn cycle for free. They need... So if Lotus Petal or Volcanic Island are too far down, I'm not dead. I'm randomizing the order of their library, which is what makes this decision interesting. So I can choose to just port them and keep them off of Faithless Looting, or I can play Revoker, or sorry, I can play Recruiter and get either Revoker or Sanctum Prelate. Either one of those things, stopping Lotus Petal, wins this game. But opponent casts Faithless Looting. 2 of their cards are redraws. And I am going to need the bottom card of their library to be either Lotus Petal or Volcanic Island in order to win. No, hold on. No, I already played Wasteland this turn. Shit. I am just porting them. Okay. I was thinking way more than I needed to. I went P in the middle of this. My focus was lost. No, opponent does not have 2 land drops. They have Volcanic Island and Lotus Petal as their 2 mana sources necessary to win the game. Alright, Street Wraith was their draw for turn. Okay. If the bottom card of their library is Volcanic Island. I no longer win, right? Because they would draw Edge of Autumn this turn, cycle it. That sucks. So now like if bottom card is Thassa's Oracle, yeah, okay. If that card was Edge of Autumn, then they go that and kill me. No, if Oracle's bottom, they get it with Edge of Autumn. Alright. Here's another loss for the old D&T. Deck's not well suited to beating Doomsday, especially this build. There's nothing like Deafening Silence or Mindbreak Trap here to help with these sorts of decks. And regardless, that deck is pretty good at playing around some of those effects as well in some situations. Yeah. So the gut shots were kind of hilarious versus goblins. Like we brought them in. They weren't as dreadful as I thought, but we didn't play against something like Rug Delver, so I could actually test this out. Which I guess as a whole I'm thankful for. But like it wasn't a particularly interesting league. Like just kind of rehashing. Our Goblins opponent was playing a combo heavy build and just like essentially their Snoop did nothing in game 1 and they died. And then in game 2 they mulliganed to like 2 and died. Then I played against Eldrazi where my opponent played very poorly and lost because of it. I played versus Jund. It wasn't a particularly exciting game. Played against Reanimator, where I think my opponent made a bunch of errors, but it didn't matter. And then played against Doomsday that I couldn't fight back against. This was a more pleasant league than last week's daily D&T for sure. But it still just like solidifies D&T as this deck where even if you're very proficient at playing it, the deck's power level itself is just like so not there right now. You just don't have the tools to punish your opponents like you used to. This is one of the first leagues in a long time that things actually went long enough that I actually got like the Stoneforge and Flickerwisp engines online, which is really kind of a rarity these days. Oh, by the way, I don't think I mentioned the donor for this week at the beginning. Thank you very much to Tony P for donating to support this week of Daily D&T. It is very, very much appreciated. Yeah, I do nothing a lot. Like when you look at the cards from the last, you know, year, 2 years at this point, like the things like Oko, Uro, Astrolabe, Arcanist, Brazenbauer, Karn, like there's so many powerful, flexible cards, many of which snowball the games by themselves. And D&T just like doesn't have those. Tuxdev, I would go a step further than that because like that's a maxim that used to be said about Legacy, right? Like it doesn't matter what you do as long as it's powerful. And like that's not true anymore. It like now it doesn't matter what you do as long as you are playing like 2019 2020 cards. And it's really sad to say that, but I really think that's where the format's at. Like I feel like a lot of Legacy's history is pushed out by Fire philosophy. But I don't want to rehash that too much because you know this is daily D&T. It's not soapbox time. For YouTube purposes, I'm going to go ahead and cut the recording here. So YouTube folks, I hope you enjoyed.